The Halal Travel Podcast.
So welcome back everyone to another episode of the Halal Travel Podcast. Hope everyone is safe and well and that the COVID situation wherever you are is improving. Today's episode, we have with us Zulhaqem Zulkifli, who is a Singaporean currently pursuing his Masters in UK. So in 2019, Zulhaqem was awarded the prestigious Public Service Commission Scholarship to further his studies. He graduated with a degree in philosophy, and the scholarship allowed him to complete his master's degree in Buddhist Studies at Oxford St. Peter's College. So unlike his fellow awardees, his journey has been very unconventional, coming from a humble background, but he kept going despite the odds. So we have a lot of questions, like we always do it on every episode. Nurul is nodding, Hazira is nodding, I'm nodding. So we're all just thinking, can we do like a 1 hour episode for this, or do we do a two-parter? So we'll see. Anyway, we have many questions, but welcome Zulhaqem, and thank you for taking your time out today to be on the podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Let us know first of all where you are at right now.
So right now I'm actually in the UK. I'm in Oxford, still continuing my studies. I'm writing my thesis now, so that's pretty much it.
Is it the final kind of chapter to your master's degree?
Well, no. So after the thesis, I have to study for an examination. So that's a final examination.
Okay. He was just telling us about the weather in UK. It's not...
Yeah.
It's not pleasant.
Okay. So maybe I've shared a little bit more about, your studies. Maybe you can, in your own words, share a little bit more about yourself.
Myself. So, so I think, the introduction has certainly captured a lot of my background. I suppose I do come from a very unconventional background. And I'm pretty sure all of you have questions about that also, and I know I'll be more than happy to answer that. But actually, what do you want to know? That's such a general question.
That's such an interview sort of question, right? Tell us a bit more about yourself. Okay, you know what? I think anyway, when we get into the questions, we'll learn more. So, you have anything you want to start with? I always let Hazira ask the first question.
We'll let Nurul ask first.
Mine is quite deep, so you start first.
Okay. Okay, so let's start off with, I think, to just give everyone a view on your life. If you could just explain how your family grew up, or what is meant by unconventional. Yeah.
Right. So I suppose my family background, so where I come from, it's really, it feels a bit a bit narcissistic and obnoxious for me to say this, but it's really a very humble place. I don't come from a place of wealth, In fact, I come from the other end of the spectrum. My family and me, we grew up with very very little, and there were most of my childhood was I think we struggled a lot with starvation and food scarcity, because usually it's just a single meal a day, and then the mornings. So the mornings was whatever that was left over or whatever we could find, and then we had to wait for our dad to come back, and then that was our proper meal of the day, and so it was really really difficult back then, and of course there's also the whole homeless aspect as well, So for a period of time, me and my family found ourselves not having a house, and a lot looking back, these experiences seem quite funny, I suppose. You could, oh my God, I went through that. But, at the same time, you also think to yourself, how exactly did I go through that, And one of my most, I suppose, vivid experiences was actually studying at the Void Deck at 3 a.m. for my A-levels. So this was during the A-level phase. So during my A-levels, I was already homeless. And and the only place where I could find a place to study was actually the void decks, and unfortunately the void decks, the lighting wasn't really good. So and I think one of the memories I had was of like, police officers do their
the screening
patrol.
Yeah.
And then like it was to the point where they knew who I was because I was always there, and then they'll be like, am I allowed to speak in Malay a bit?
Go ahead.
So some of the officers were Malay, so they were like, belajar pandai adik. Lain kali ada. I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's why.
Look where I am now, guys.
I was like, no, well, it wasn't like that. So I wouldn't think that I would have made it to where I am now. I mean, this is really unexpected. Even today, I still it's like been almost 2 years into the course. I'm still wondering how did I even end up here? It feels so
surreal.
Yeah, and I think my siblings also, I mean, not so much about me, but also my siblings as well. They also went through the same experiences, and they all had, we all took different routes. I took a rather, I suppose you could say academic route, and that's the case for some of my siblings, but not all of them. But I suppose we struggle a lot. And I'm pretty sure there are. I mean, when I say struggle, I guess it's just within the context of me and my family. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people struggle. I think everyone in fact struggles. It's just that our struggles take different forms. And for our family, it's more of material and social struggles that we had to fight back.
What kind of kept you going? Despite all the challenges that you faced, probably you knew that education was really important to you. What kept you going?
So I firmly believe that education is the way out of breaking our cycles, and that I think really pushed me forward, and the idea that I really don't want this kind of life anymore. I really like, if you ask me today what are my dreams or what or anything in a word, I would say I would want stability, and I think a lot of people take that for granted. That a lot of people say like, I want excitement in life. I want a job that gives me real
self-actualization
and self-actualization. I mean, I'm sure those are important, but I think given the kind of life I've led, I think stability is really is much more precious to me, because stability means everything's okay. You don't have to, and I think we are just not appreciative of that fact.
For sure.
Sometimes I think it's just the nature of human beings, I suppose.
And I just want to say, like, when you say that it might feel narcissistic that you're saying it, that you live a humble life, I would just like to highlight that honestly, when I hear the word humble, I would think that my life is humble. I don't live in with branded handbags gitu kan. But I think your version of humble is like, oh my god, I cannot believe there are people like that in Singapore. Like macam, in one of the articles you mentioned that you were even living in the void decks. There was a period of time you were homeless and living in the void decks. And then you and your father would go to the dumpster to find scraps of metal.
And cardboard boxes.
So macam, I really don't think, if there is a deeper word or a lower word for humble, that would be it.
Are you gonna cry?
Yeah, I could hear you.
This is a record. It's only been a few minutes into the.
But really, I think you should be very proud of yourself.
I think it's amazing. I think what you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your emotions as well. I think that's very brave of you.
I need to touch you guys.
She has a lot. What's here?
Last episode tak nangis, tapi sekarang nak nangis. Apa ni?
You did apa?
tak sempat.
Almost going to.
Tissue please.
Okay, nah.
So just
go ahead.
Yeah, so just now you were mentioning that you had some struggles in terms of both material as well as social. Could you explain a little bit more about social struggles?
Right. So social struggles would include I suppose when it comes to certain. It's more of like when people know that you're not from a well-off place, you know, they don't really treat you with the kind of respect that they would give their fellow people, and that's something I mean, to me, I don't really care, but I know after a while it does get a bit, you know, annoying that, you know, you're not taken seriously because of the sheer fact that you come from a lower socioeconomic class. And, you know, all the more when they find out that, you know, you've been doing this and you've been doing that and you can't afford this and you can't afford that. And then that's also something that I face. And sometimes it's quite sad to say this, but some of the most, you know, blatant forms of discrimination are actually from your own people. So, you know, and this perpetuation of this idea that, oh, kau ni miskin because you choose to be poor, you choose to be lazy. But, and this is something that, you know, me and even Project Hills has been trying to combat, this idea that, you know, sometimes that's not the case. I'm pretty sure there are some people, and even if that was the case, you cannot use it as a generalization for entire groups of people who are, you know, who represent the lower strata of society. And I think I can say this because I belong to that group. I've lived those experiences, and, you know, it's just that I am very fortunate. I'm very privileged in that I have access to, you know, to a good scholarship, to a good education, and so, you know, I do find myself in a position where I need to voice out for people who cannot voice these concerns. Why would we assume that just because they're poor and that somehow equates to some kind of laziness on their part? In fact, some of the most hardworking people I've met in my life are actually the poorest people in society. And when I look at them, you know, it's just, you know, there's just this dissonance, like how can anyone say that they are not working hard? And the truth of the matter is, you can work very hard in life, and sometimes you work so hard, but, you know, you work so hard to the point of you're so exhausted that you cry until you cannot cry anymore because you're just so tired. And it still doesn't amount to anything. You know, you still can't achieve what you set out to do. And that's very real. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about that. And I guess it also comes from like this idea of like, you know, comfort. It's easier to sleep at night, you know, for people to sleep at night, to know that, well, okay, you know, just blame the individual. It's, you know, whatever they're suffering is because of themselves. But actually, it could be something more systemic, there are more complicated reasons as to why they are in the position they are at.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons I can think of out of the top of my head is that sometimes, even though they're working very hard, they have no idea how to break out from the cycle, and they just need like a helping hand to guide them through to the right place. Okay, maybe you just need to push them there, and maybe they're also very comfortable in, like, you know, they just want to survive, and that's the first thing that they think of. When they think about their future, they can't really think far ahead because what they want to figure out is having food on the table, right?
True. I think what I really could relate to is when you said like stability. I think a lot of us take for granted that, and I think I have a friend like asked me before back in school, and she was doing like some awareness thing, and she was asking me like, what do you look for like in your future, like what do you want? And I just said like, I just want to be comfortable. Like I don't need like wealth or whatever, but I just want to be comfortable. I want to be able to, like, you know, go to the supermarket and buy what I want to buy without having to worry about, you know, whether
what
it will be able to buy like maybe slightly a bit more expensive cereal because I want to eat that, and it's okay. That's just the kind of like, I think, life I want. Comfortable, stable, and just secure.
Actually, that kind of reminded me of this one documentary series that I watched. I can't remember for the life of God that what the name is. But there's this one social worker that's researched on the lower income families. So they followed them through to their grocery shopping, and they had to buy like milk for the baby, right? So sometimes they have like the promotion, and they couldn't buy like in bulk because they were not able to afford it. I mean, they could, but it's like months worth of money. And then the social worker was asking that lady, like, why don't you just buy in bulk because it's much cheaper that way. And sometimes if you think about it from their perspective, you have no idea how to solve it at the same time, you know?
It's like it's a kitchen and egg sort of thing, like you can't afford it, so buying more is cheaper, but you can't afford buying more. So
it's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, yeah. So you've shared a bit more about your struggles with your family, homelessness. And we also talked about how your education journey is also a bit unconventional. I think when we say unconventional, we mean like you started off from a normal, I can't think of the word.
Normal academic
stream, and you went on all the way to where you are today. So maybe you can share a bit more about that.
So I am from the normal academic stream, and I'm actually very proud that I'm from the normal academic stream. Because I guess like growing up back then was like there was this. I mean, now things have changed certainly, and perceptions have changed of how do we judge someone's educational worth. But back then, being part of the normal academic or normal technical stream was seen something back, and certainly I think a lot of us might relate to this. When you go for when there's Hari Raya gatherings, and then like the aunties and uncles start comparing.
Tell me
about
it.
Normal tech. Anak aku kat RI ke apa. Then I'm like, okay, good for you.
Makcik, gitu
I'm always like, can you please like change to other topics? But I was from normal academic, and normal academic means like I think it's like 5 years. So 5 years you do N levels, and then in year 4, and then in year 5 you take your O levels. So it's like a gradual build up, and I kind of like that process. The fact that you had the N levels to just sort of like prepare you for the O levels, and you came out with back then I was quite I'll come out with 2 certificates, not just an O level cert, but and then but then later on I found out that people only consider your highest qualification and not how many certificates you got. So that was kind of naive of me, but and the normal academic stream is made up of people from various backgrounds, and I wouldn't even hesitate to say it's like a very naughty stream, like because people you're at that phase where you're very rebellious, but also really intelligent, and I think a lot of my friends, I consider them really, really intelligent in different senses of the word. And I think it's really kudos to teachers who handle the normal tech and normal academic streams, because like it's really a difficult job. And from there actually I did my N levels and O levels. What happened during my O levels was that the family situation was really bad. So my parents were going through a divorce, and that sort of like to a certain extent that also affected our studies, and because of that, and also because we couldn't afford tuition, so all my friends were going for tuition. So and in fact today I'm looking back, I'm actually quite proud, because like I didn't have to go to tuition, and it's possible. If anyone feels left out that they don't have tuition, it's fine, it's possible.
Yes, me too.
So because of that, I actually failed my O level math. So it was like I got like a E8 or something, or F9 or something. I think it was an F9, and then like so the options that were presented to me back then was either I go to ITE or I go to MI, which is Millennia Institute. So Millennia Institute is like a pre-university. So they do they call it a pre-university, but I think it's just some fancy word to market themselves. I think MI is just JC but 3 years. It's just JC but 3 years. Which I think there's no difference between them and normal JCs, considering like normal JCs also have students with a high they have a high retention rate for students. So some students in JC actually end up spending 3 or 4 years, so there's no difference. But MI like afforded me an opportunity. It gave me an opportunity. So as an institution, I feel MI, and this is not like a put down to ITEs or whatnot. My siblings were from ITEs, and it's a wonderful place. For people who prefer a different way of expressing their skills. MI, the reason why I went to MI because I thought like, okay, maybe I would give this a try, and also because at that point of time, MI was accepting of students. So they have this program called the which allowed for students to retake their O levels and get a better O level score for a subject. And I was admitted into MI on a conditional basis. So that means by the end of year 2, I don't pass. So you get 2 chances to do your O level subject that you failed. So for me it was math. Some people are doing English or Chinese or something. And I had 2 chances. By year 2, if you don't meet the requirement, you get kicked out lah. I mean, but but that's not the point. The point is you get 2 chances. I entered MI, and at first I really didn't know what A levels was, because in my head I was thinking, budak nomaket masuk poly je lah. I mean, nak pergi mana? Just go poly lah. I mean, go poly, get a job, this typical setup, get married, then buy BTO. The so-called Singapore dream.
Yes.
But I guess those dreams got disrupted, I suppose. Like, it was undermined by the fact that I failed my O-level math, and I went to MI. It was really difficult because like I had to cope with the A-level syllabus, and I think until today I would say the hardest examinations I've studied and slogged for is actually the GCE A levels. It's really the worst examinations. It's just tons of cramming and verbal vomiting into the paper.
So were you from humans? Humans or arts?
So I like, it's just memorizing essays and trying to spew everything back out. I really don't think I learned much. It's like memorizing essays, and that gets you through. And so I had to deal with that and my O-level math. And in the first year I took it, I failed again. But that was entirely my fault, because like I guess at that point of time I wasn't really sure of how to divide my time, between the A-level syllabus and my O-level math. And then second year, so the first year I actually became quite, a bit kanchong, a bit like, oh my God, the next time is literally the final chance I have. I get kicked out and then that's it. I would not have even attempted the A levels and I'm already out of this place. That's just pathetic, I thought. And I thought like, okay, I need to do something. And then I did, and then I barely scraped through it. So I barely scraped through it. And then my teachers were, I think, especially the English department, the English and literature department really loved me a lot. So they were always fighting to promote me. So there's like promotion exercise. I was like, throughout my 3 years in MI, I was always promoted. I never advanced. I was so there's promoted and then there's advanced. So I was advanced. So advanced means you don't meet the basic criteria to go up to year 2 or year 3. But because the teachers think like, well, that you have potential and just that you're very mischievous or something. So they say like, well, actually you can cope. It's just that you need more discipline. So they just push you up. Throughout all my 3 years of MI, I was an advanced student. So shout out to all the MI people who are advanced. You still can make it. You can. It's still possible. It's possible. Advancement doesn't mean anything. But you should study. So you should study and try to get promoted. Don't get advanced. And yeah, so my teachers were saying like, oh, it would be such a waste if we had to kick you out. But I'm quite grateful that wasn't the case. And so I went to MI, passed my O-level math, and then like it wasn't actually a pass. It's just like to meet a basic fail grade or something. And I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, that's why I'm in humanities, because I just don't want to do with math. I just can't do that. Although I know a lot of people who can. And then from there I went to NTU. So from MI, I just went to NTU and I did philosophy. And at that point of time, philosophy was also a brand new course.
Yep.
And when I remember when I wanted to join philosophy, there was a lot of opposition, not only from extended family, but also from friends as well. They were saying like, oh, why you want to go to NTU? Go to NUS. NUS like the better uni. I said, is it? I was like, I don't know. I mean, where do you get that idea? And then I at the point of time I already knew that I wanted to do philosophy. So and NTU just opened a new program, and I thought, okay, why not? Just give it a try lah. I mean, try to be a pioneer generation in the program. And I went there, and I mean, other people were, thankfully my family has always been very supportive of what I do.
Yeah.
My so-called eccentric choices, like philosophy is not something a lot of people do, and especially if you're Malay, it's just kau nak makan apa dengan philosophy. I was like, kerja kat McDonald's ke lah. That's my standard reply. And of course there was like this like religious dimension also. You see, study philosophy, later songsang, sesat, and all that. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry.
It's all negativity.
I didn't know that you now work at MUIS and nak songsang kan orang all. So yeah, but my family is like really like, just do it lah, don't care lah. All these people hate us lah.
Family is the best.
Yeah.
I love it, says.
Yeah, and that's how I went into philosophy. And then when I did philosophy, there was a module that I took which was Buddhist philosophy, and then I became very concerned with certain ideas, like the ideas of like suffering and why is there evil, and also I think personally it relates to my own experiences, like sometimes growing out through all that, I do wonder like why exactly do we suffer, why is there so much evil in the world, why is there so much pain, is it something that I did or am I being punished for something even, and these are questions that philosophy asks of us, not so much. It's not just questioning for the sake of questioning or questioning for the sake of answers. I can tell you there are no answers in philosophy. It's more of like perspectives, and these perspectives are important because they allow us to shape certain viewpoints that, we want for ourselves, and how we use those viewpoints to navigate through life. It's a very subjective thing. What may work for someone might not work for you, and what might work for you might not work for someone. And I have found that certainly to be the case. But so I did Buddhist philosophy, and then I just got very interested in it because firstly, because I am still a Muslim. For those who,
Alhamdulillah. Those are wondering.
Alhamdulillah, I'm still there. In case, because I always get this, masih Islam. Actually, some days I'm just very sarcastic, but today I think better not. So yeah, I am still Muslim. So in Islam, we are taught certain ideas. There is a soul, there's an afterlife, and all this. But then when it came to Buddhism, then they start saying things like there's no soul, there's no self. There are all these viewpoints that were contradictory to Islam, and I think me as a person, as an individual, I find a lot of attraction in things that I don't understand. It's just me lah. It's just me being toxic in my own way, I suppose. just getting attracted to things I don't understand, and the more I don't understand the thing, the more I get. I get frustrated, and then I want to know more, and then it just becomes like an obsession, I suppose.
Honestly, I think that's a good thing, because I think the fact that you learn about Buddhism, you question why is it different from your own religion, which is Islam, which then makes you deep dive more into your religion and other people's religion. So I think it's a good thing, because I think I hear something along the lines like Allah like someone who is always thinking, questioning about life. And I think one of the things yang macam a lot of perhaps the older generation are not used to is the fact that younger generations are asking, why do we do this? Why do we do that in Islam? And it's seen more as like, why are you questioning the Quran? You know? So, it's difficult.
Ni semua bisikan syaitan tau.
Astaghfirullahaladzim.
Yeah, betul.
That was told to me once. I was like, you cannot question this, you cannot question. It's not like I'm questioning from a place of spite. I'm questioning to understand. And, and if you don't have the answers, it's fine. It's fine. It's not to have the answers. I mean, there was a period of time where, where I went through a period of doubt. So I had a lot of doubt about faith in general, not just Islam, but doubt itself. And then I think one of my teachers actually told me and I still hold on to this today, without great doubt, there cannot be great faith. And that was a very when I heard that, it hit me very hard, that's true. And then I asked her what do you mean by that? When you say that without great doubt there can be no great faith, then she said that the opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is actually certainty. If you're certain, then it's not faith already. Faith always has in itself an element of doubt. There's a period of time where you just don't understand why things work, but then you still believe in that, and that's what faith. That's what the leap of faith is about. Trying to believe in something when there is no logical reasons for you to have it. So I think I'll just stop there before this becomes a
I'm curious though. You say your cohort got 3 people. You are a Muslim, and the other 2 are Buddhist?
So my cohort is quite unique. So I'm a Muslim and I'm a philosopher. So the other guy, he's from Puerto Rico, and he's a Protestant Christian.
Okay.
And he's an art historian. So, and my other classmate is actually a monastic. She's a nun from China.
So interesting.
Actually, my course a lot of monastics. So my class, my cohort, not my cohort, but the entire program, is just people, a lot of monks and
what do they mean by 3 people in the cohort? So you mean your class only has 3 people?
Yes.
Yeah.
How is that a class? Sorry.
But it is a class. I mean, it's 3 people.
It's cool.
But it's quite interesting though, because each of us were sort of this was what our supervisor told us. We were chosen to complement each other. So someone did philosophy, someone does the doctrine and philosophies, and then someone does the arts and aesthetics and culture, and then someone is actually living the experience. And and that's how me and my classmates actually get along with each other a lot. Actually, we are actually very close because we always give perspectives from certain viewpoints, and we try to understand, and that makes for, I think, really holistic learning. I think that's really important.
Wow, they put in so much effort to put the class together. All these only people.
It is. Because when we first came here, so over here there's imposter syndrome is a very real thing, and I can attest to that.
How into imposter syndrome? Yeah, please explain.
Imposter syndrome. So
fake it till you make it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's this feeling that you don't deserve where you are, where you're supposed to be at, and so what a lot of the academics or the teachers here do actually is they go through a talk with the new students and tell them look, you're here by merit and you deserve your spot, because the process of deliberating and choosing and subject, and you are actually, without you knowing, being subjected into really rigorous frameworks of assessment to see whether you make the cut to be here or not, and that sort of gives you a bit of assurance. But I mean that's nice. That's nice. I mean, to know that, well, okay, I'm not here by chance.
Yeah.
Sometimes that does. I think that's the real
bisikan syaitan.
Okay. I think. Okay. Any other questions on?
I was just thinking, So you guys had a rough start to life, kan, as children. So like you started when you guys are younger. Was it ever been, and I believe your siblings and yourself are really close, kan?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
has there ever been a time when either one of you, like your brother or your sister, just come up to you and like, why are we being tested this way? Like, yeah, has there ever been a
Are
time?
you the oldest, by the way?
Yes, I am. I am the oldest, and I'm the one that everyone looks up to. So, to answer your question, yes, I think it's not ever a time. I think every day, at least one of my siblings will ask this question, because we're still not out of it. We still haven't sort of made it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, after this, things will change, and I'm always hoping for change, and that's why we work very hard. But most of the we it is sometimes it's just really difficult. It's really difficult when it feels like the entire world has abandoned you, and sometimes you ask yourself, why can't I have a life that's as easy as my friend? And my siblings, they some of them, well, my brother likes to say this thing to some people who, sometimes some people just need like a reality check. So they will say really, really, I guess it's like they don't mean to, but they like mengeluh, and then like they say things that are quite reflects the kind of environment that they come from. So they'll say things like, oh my god, and then they'll start complaining about this and that and all that, and then my brother will be like, actually, what's so difficult? You have a roof over your head. You have a good family, parents that a complete family, so to say, and you have a place, your own room to study. Your job is just to study and eat your parents' rice. That's all. There's nothing. You don't have to work part-time to get pocket money. You don't have to you certainly don't have to sift through the dumpster on afternoons to get basic needs, and you don't have to worry about school fees or pocket money. So I think these questions in a way also reflect the kind of existential questions that my siblings ask a lot also, and also of myself. And I think they do, come to me because they kind of like, not so much for asking answers, because I do tell them like, I don't have any answers on this. You have to, I guess, after you die, you go ask lah.
Oh my god, that's something like my dad used to say to me all the time.
I really don't know how to answer, because I don't know how to answer is one. Secondly, I'm not qualified to even answer. And sometimes also I find of the people who are qualified to answer, so maybe asatizas maybe. Sometimes we don't relate to them. People think that going to asatizas might help, but I can tell you, like, for me and my siblings, you tell us to go to asatizas for spiritual advice. That's not really helpful for us, because asatizas don't understand the situation we're in, and most of the times, and we've tried, it's not like we are haters or whatnot, and asatizas are a valued community, group of people within our community, and I respect them, we love them, but sometimes there are things that they just can't understand, and most of we have tried talking to them and trying to ask for guidance or whatnot, but sometimes, most of the times, the experience is like they are more shocked, and they are more trying to cope with the idea of us being in such a situation, because they've never heard of people being in such a situation as ours, and I think we should also not be simplistic in seeing our asatizas also, because some of them also come from, they're not from, this. There's always this impression that asatiza means come from lower class or whatnot. But actually, a lot of students in the Islamic schools or graduated from the Islamic universities actually belong from the higher. There's a survey. Someone told me there's a survey. Yeah, they come from a higher echelon
class
of Malay, class of Muslim community in Singapore. Yeah. So it's quite ironic that we would think that they would be able to understand, and perhaps maybe this could be a kind of, if there are citizens listening to this, could be a wake up call also, Sometimes, you might be true, what you're saying is true, but your delivery might be wrong,
Right.
Sometimes it's just difficult, how do you talk to people who have estranged relationships with their mothers or something, and then you start, someone has an estranged relationship with their mother, and it's like a very toxic, abusive relationship, and then you keep drumming into them, syurga di bawah tapak kaki mak, ibu, and I'm like, you're just traumatizing the poor person.
Yeah, you're not solving the nuance of the situation,
There isn't like a one-size-fits-all kind of answer, you need to depend on the context, I think, and the nuances of the person's situation. But I suppose the challenges that you faced, growing up, it has what led you to form Project Heals.
Yes.
So maybe, you can talk a little bit more about Project Heals and what it does, because it's still active now, very much active.
So Project Heals was actually in the makings for a few years before last year. So we officially started during the circuit breaker phase of 2020, but actually the operations wise was in the years before COVID. So before COVID, we were already helping out some families that we knew, and it was really informal, and they just approach us and then we say, cik perlukan apa, nak susu ke atau like diapers ke gitu, and that's how we've been helping. And I think we are very much shaped by our experiences, and I think in my family, for me and my siblings, we see, we don't want other people to go through unnecessary suffering. Like, I don't think anyone should go through whatever we go through. It's not nice, and we believe that if there's no solution, then you become the solution. In whatever small ways that you can, and that's how we have always seen ourselves. How we've always envisioned the sort of lives and the sort of philosophies that we want to incorporate in our lives, and this whole idea that not just that you suffer, but that your suffering is so that that others should not suffer as well, and you should try to help out as much as possible. And in that sense, you can then say that you have transcended your suffering, because you don't have doing all these good like good works, charitable actions. It's not something that's demanded of you. You don't have to. I don't have to. My siblings don't have to. It's something that is extra that you do, but we still think that you have to do it, because if you don't do it, then not only how do you live with yourself, with so many people that are suffering. That's one. And then secondly, how can you say, how do you tell yourself that you are different, if we just refuse to let the circumstances of our lives condition who we turn out to be, and we should try to rise out of it better and more beneficial for people, and that's how Project Heals started actually. We've been toying with the idea for a few years, trying to see like, well, how, I always wanted to start, and I do say this often, like I always wanted to start a charitable initiative. I want to start a charity. I want to start a body or organization that could, to help all these people. I mean, there are all these organizations out there, and they do a lot of good work, a lot of NGOs and all that, but a lot of it, in my opinion, is quite performative. They don't understand the needs of the poor, and then when they do come, some of the people, the higher ups especially, they just do this really, really superficial stuff, shake hand, kasih habuan, take photo, take video, and then like, talk to some small kid, and then like, please sumbangkan pada zakat pada kami. And then like, okay, and which is nothing wrong. I don't see anything wrong with that. The problem is like the attitudes that come with it. for so long we have heard the experiences of NGOs and social service organizations. Oh, this is how the poor people are. Or dorang memang gitu, very stubborn, very degil, very lazy, very whatever. But we've never heard a voice from from the poor. And growing up, me and my siblings, we were at the receiving end of this kind of treatment. We get help, but then like they will be like, oh, jangan beli rokok Despite the fact that I don't smoke, we don't smoke. They just assume that we smoke, just because we are we come from that and it's really offensive. Even if I was a smoker, I honestly think it's none of our business what people do with the money. Your job is just to give the money. It's not your job to interrogate how they spend it or whatnot. And when it comes to smoking, I think it's a very complex issue. Why are you smoking? It's not about why this person is smoking or whatnot. It's like the greater question is why is he doing what he is doing? It's not the smoking itself. So Project Hills was started during the circuit breaker, and the circuit breaker was the reason why it was circuit breaker was because we still live in a rental estate. We still live in that 2-room unit in Queenstown. And during the eve of the circuit breaker, so when Prime Minister went up and said, like, we're gonna have all these measures, the estates was actually in quite chaotic lah, because people were being very scared of like, hey, macam mana and most of them are daily rated workers. Their jobs are really unstable. They don't draw a constant salary. So the idea of jobs was really pertinent. And then not only jobs, because most of them, because of the nature of their jobs, they're cleaners or whatnot, tend to be frontline workers. So they are frontline workers, and then they have kids as well. So nobody's taking care of their kids. Nobody's going to do grocery shopping for them. Sustenance is quite precarious, and people were coming up to us, and by this time I think some of them know who we are, and like we just became known as, oh, ni keluarga yang tolong-tolong, boleh pinjam duit, boleh kasih benda. And then they started talking to my dad, and then my dad started telling my sister, and my sister, she's a social worker. So one is a social worker, and then my other sister is she works at she takes care of the differently abled people. So kids with, so I think it's like a care person like that. So she works at Rainbow Center.
Oh, okay.
So I think and then like so my dad was talking to my sister, these people, they asked me for help, how to get all this stuff, like. And then like every day, it seems like every day in the days that was leading up to the circuit breaker, even on the days of the circuit breaker itself, every day my dad came up, there was like some new development. Anak dia ni dah tak ada susu, anak dia ni tak tahu kat mana, and all that. And then we were like, okay. And then but at that point in time, I was already back, and I was like, then I was talking to my sister at night. I think it was like midnight, and I was just I think we need to formalize this lah. I mean, for greater efficiency, and I think we need to ask help already. Because initially when we started, it was us just forking out money from our own pockets. So, which is quite funny lah, because I think we also needed the money, but then like especially my sister, she really needed her money, and but she still, she's just a very big-hearted woman. I mean, I mean, she's just an inspiration for me lah. I mean, she's my younger sister, but I learned a lot of things from her, and she, every time I ask her, kau kasih ni duit kat orang, then like, what are you gonna do for lunch? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna pay your school fees? Then she'll be like, never mind lah bang, kalau kita kasih orang, nanti Allah kasih kita balik, insyaAllah. Then I was like, okay, sorry. but then like, it's just like, I think like elder brother thing.
I cannot take you seriously.
I just cannot take you seriously. But then at the same time, inside my heart, I was very impressed. But I just cannot reveal that I'm impressed.
Not you.
So
We'll beat you up for you.
Yeah, because it will be very awkward.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, maybe I should revise that position.
Okay, we'll just move on. Let's move on.
Yeah, so she was like forking out money from her own salary, and it was to a point where I think half of her salary was going to all these people. And then I said, okay, you know what, of course I was also helping out with my own savings and all that, and but the kind of help I can give was very limited, because I'm still a student. My brother also, I think, helped out a lot. And I just told them, you know what, let's just formalize this. And then we started Project Hills. And the reason why it's called Project Hills, because the area that we're in is a very hilly area. Bukit Merah, Bukit Ho Swee, Kim Tian, even Queenstown is also built on a hill. And it's just quite funny, because I guess in the early days of Singaporean urban planning, they just decided to clump a lot of the old rental estates together. And actually it still is one of the earliest and oldest blocks of rental estates, and where most of the underprivileged and if you do come to the area, you will find it a bit ironic as well, because there are all these rental estates which are inhabited by people who belong to the lowest class in society, the lowest socioeconomic class. But then at the same time, you see beside the rental estates, $1 million condominiums rising up.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it's a very mature estate, and it's very expensive to live there. And every time I look at the whole scenario, I just laugh to myself. Oh my God, it's just like, this is like peak Singaporean irony. Like the rich and the poor just live inside myself. Okay, but it's great. Maybe I don't know. And then we started that, and then first it started from us like canvassing on social media. So circuit breaker, what can you do? You can't like go around hollering like, oh, okay, tolong aku or something. So we went on social media and we leverage on that, and I would like to think that we are quite young people and tech savvy, so we started using the power of social media. And our own stories, our own Insta stories, I told my siblings, hey guys, you take pictures, don't take pictures of the people, take pictures of the conditions, and then tell them why you need the money. And then I think if we are sincere enough, people will contribute. And people have contributed, and that was really amazing. Like until today, we still, our main source of funding is actually through crowdsourcing, and we are very, I at least am very amazed by the kind of how the money comes in, because and this is something I always say in my stories and even on Project Hills platforms, that even $1 counts. Like $1 counts a lot. And it's quite cute, because like we do have a group of donors who anonymously donate to Project Hills, and they always donate in $1. And I figured, and then I found out like, hey, who are these people who are donating $1? And that's really great, because like we found out that they were like, I think secondary school kids, and sometimes they are people. Yeah, they're just very small kids who just want to donate $1 and whatnot. Yeah. And to me, that's much more precious, to be able to give that $1 that you only have, is much greater than giving that dollar out of the 100 that you have.
Very true.
You're giving what you have, and if you ask me like who. Between the person who gives a lot of money and a person who gives lesser money, I would actually be more impressed by a person who gives lesser money, because sometimes they really don't have money. And I do know some of them because they are people who are also struggling. And that's really amazing also, because it shows that actually, some of the most kindest people are actually the people who belong to the group of people that Project Hills helps out. And in terms of what we do, well, initially we started giving out ration packs. So it was like grocery bags filled with rations that they need to survive for the month, because some of them can't go out for grocery shopping because of shift work, and their work wouldn't allow them to go out. Some of them had to take care of their kids. Some of them were old people who cannot go to the supermarket, and also the initial panic buying also was really bad, to the point where I think I had some of my beneficiaries actually, they were crying also. Like I said, Hakim, kenapa orang ni semua asal diorang asal diorang zalim sangat pada kita orang.
If you're in Singapore, you'll know that food is our number one priority. Food in Singaporeans are practically inseparable. It's literally the best ingredient for any occasion, any stress you got going on. You know, food solves everything. Because, for example, if it's your birthday, let's go eat. You got a promotion, you deserve a treat, sayang. You feel like pulling your hair out. Come on, I'll bring you for supper. Yeah, you get what I mean? It's literally perfect for everything. And of course, we want to tell you everything about it. Like places you didn't know were halal, or 12 new halal places you need to try this week, for example. We are determined to make your tummy bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger than last year or any time. So follow us on the blog to get all the insights at www.halaltrip.com. And of course, we are also on every social media platform at Halal Trip.
Kita yang memerlukan all these house brands. So house brands are cheap, cheap NTUC house brands. These are brands that normally a lot of my people buy. So because
beneficiaries,
my beneficiaries buy, and when people start stockpiling for irrationally, right, you actually deprive a lot of these people of their sustenance, and a lot of them have a lot of children, and it's also, I mean, me telling you this is very easy, but when I was confronted with that situation, it was very difficult because I really don't know how to explain. Of course, I was angry, and I was more angry when I see. Can you imagine a man breaking down in front of you, saying like, he's thinking that he's such a failure of a father because he cannot buy, cannot buy rice for his children, and turns out that there was rice, but it's rice that he cannot afford, and also the whole economics of it, if you buy a higher, a more expensive bag of rice, yes, you get the rice, but that means that the cost is subsisted from something else, and it's just a lot of debts, and when it's easy to talk about these things on hindsight, or even when talking to you, but when it's just really different when you find people crying in front of you, because they're just very. It's not so much like they are given up, but it's more of like it's crying out of exhaustion because they're just so exhausted by the whole situation, and I think that's what I think COVID really taught all of us about how, I thought there was like there's a level of desperation that one can reach, but actually COVID revealed to me that there is actually, it can actually get worse, and that really, really opened my eyes, even though as a person who also comes from the same background, I really did not know that, and I can go on all day just talking about the kind of cases that we get at Project Hills, and it's really eye-opening. So and we try our best to help that, and then like we also get referred. So after a while, Project Hills also started getting requests by social service organizations. So places like Tai Hwa Kwan, also the social workers started reaching out to us. So initially, social workers weren't classified as frontline workers, so they couldn't go out to meet their clients. And that's also the period of time where we saw a surge in domestic abuse in Singapore, because social workers are no longer doing house visits, and not just domestic abuse, but all sorts of problems. So like the old people, they fall down the toilet tersungkur or something, and because the social worker did not do the weekly visit, that caused a lot of problems. And what happened was, this was where we found ourselves in a very strategic spot, because we are not bound by all these boundaries. We are ground up, we are just, I guess, active citizens, and social workers are bound by, certain parameters, certain boundaries. They're bound by the law and red tape. So what happened was, like, some of them officially reached out to us, some of them unofficially reached out to us, because they really care about their clients, and we do. I mean, we just go and do what what was requested of us. We try to find out what was the issues, and we also link all these vulnerable groups to government agencies as well, because we as a ground up, we are very limited. We don't have a lot of power. We don't hold schemes or funding or money. We need the government's help, and and also all these agencies that are already existing who serve this purpose, and maybe they just don't know. Sometimes it's an issue of trust. Some of the people have been very disillusioned with the system, and so that's also where we come in, because we are not a political outfit. We are not. We don't have any affiliations to the government or any agency. They trust us a lot, and I think that's really very, very important for Project Heals, that this whole idea of trust, because that's how we have been doing things from day one. Trust. We've always been operating on trust, and the trust of our beneficiaries, of the people that we work with, is really, really important for us, because it not only because we value them as people, but also because they are it allows us to bridge them to get the assistance that they need, and that's pretty much what Project Heals does. And now after that we sort of expanded, so now we are doing 7 rental blocks across 3 estates.
Wow.
But even so and so the team has grown. So initially there was only 5 or 6 of us, something, so mostly family and close friends, 5 or 6 of us. And also a shout out to our close friends who have been with us from day one. Thank you so much for being with us, because I know that your parents have been scolding you for mixing with us, but sometimes, and thank you for bearing that, all those times with your parents, and your children are doing something good. So and so the from the initial 6 or 7, now we have about 80 volunteers, of which about 50 are active, and it's increasing. I mean, we're trying to recruit more people, because we will be taking on more blocks, and helping inshallah more people. We also have different departments within Project Heal. So there's the normal volunteers who just do whatever is event that crops up. But there's also the case managers. The case managers are I would say they are just these really exceptionally outstanding volunteers who are just so passionate about social causes. They would chase social service agencies and fight for our beneficiaries, because our beneficiaries sometimes they're not very well educated, so they can't express themselves well. So that's where we come in. Most of the people in Project Heals are highly educated individuals, so that's where they come in, and they give a voice for these people. And the case managers handle really, really difficult cases, and they are really, really exceptional people, and most of them hold full-time jobs, but they still do this extra stuff. So after work, they go straight to the houses of the beneficiaries and talk to them and ask them what's the situation like, and advocating for them. And then there's also a research team which is just formed. So the research team, is this group of really, really also exceptionally talented individuals. I think half of them are actually PhD candidates, and so half of them are doing PhDs. And what the research team is really concerned with is the nature of poverty and assistance. And what they do is, with our residents, on top of giving help, we also ask questions. So we do surveys, we do a general survey of things, and the research team takes all this data and tries to clean it up and try to establish what sort of trends we are seeing, and where does this information go is that it goes to working papers that may or may not be published, but it's information nonetheless, and it allows us to see what exactly is the issues within the underprivileged and the low income, and what affects them on a daily basis more, and what sort of blind spots are not seen. And sometimes some of the findings actually do go against established policy making, and and we do try to push this to the policy makers, to tell them like, look, there's this thing that's going on, you might want to consider looking at it, and that, I guess, is a form of advocacy as well, and it's not just like a research or information that's pushed up to the top. We are also planning for the information to be made available for the people as well, especially the people who are involved, the people who are affected by it. They need to know what are the trends in the situation, within the demographics of their situation, and in a sense, like, it's something that empowers them. So we really believe in this democratization of knowledge, letting them know that, look, this is your situation right now. If there's a problem, then you should go to your, you can communicate this to your local member of parliament, and tell them this is the situation, and we've done all this for you, so that you can go, not so much to like go fight with people, I mean, not fight with the authorities or whatnot, but more of like to make more informed judgments on things, to make to promote your things that are that will be conducive for your well-being, and so that's part of the plan as well.
Okay. So how can people who are listening to this, do you want to contribute and help out with Project Hills? Maybe be part of the volunteer team, or kind of help out through donations. What can they do?
So, well, we have like our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. And actually, a lot of our current volunteers, most of them are friends, but for those who are not friends, they actually are people who just who DM us or PM us straight on social media and said, hey, I want to join this. Can I join your event? And we do have like ad hoc. We have an ad hoc group also, because we understand people are working and sometimes their schedules conflict. But we have an ad hoc group as well, and they do come from time to time. They are. So that's an option they can consider. There's the normal volunteers. For normal volunteers, we just expect that they are able to commit like two weekends a month, which is actually not much lah. I mean, if you think of it, we are not touching the rest of your weekends. Just need you for 2 weekends a month, and that's just a basic requirement. But I have to say, almost all of them come almost every weekend, because Project Hills has something going on every weekend, and that's how intense the work is. I mean, we have plans that are stretching up to the end of the year as it is. So and we find actually, if anything, the work is getting more. So we really do need, if anyone who's listening to this and they want to join, please join. If you can't join, you can, I hope to encourage you to, support us in whatever means you can. Like I say, like even $1 counts, and, can just donate to us. It will help us a lot.
For sure.
Yeah. I think that was a really long explanation on Project Hills. But really, I think what comes to mind is that how well thought this entire project is. But the fact is that it came about really quickly. And Circuit Breaker was just last year.
Yeah, and you have 80 volunteers. Yeah. So I think it's amazing. I think it says a lot about the kind of people who are actually people want to help. Yeah. I think there are people out there who want to help. It's just that sometimes they just don't know how.
Yeah, and they come every week.
Yeah, and sometimes I think I feel like some groups are also difficult to join in terms of commitment as well, because they do require a bit from you. So I think Project Hills probably is a good balance for working professionals. So anyone who's looking to kind of balance, work life, their soul as well. I think that's good. So what are future plans for Project Hills and for yourself? Now that we are approaching Ramadan, and are you celebrating Eid in UK?
Sorry?
Are you celebrating Hari Raya in UK?
Yes.
Okay.
Too bad.
I mean, it is. I mean, Well, yeah lah. Too bad lah.
What to do? He's really resigning his fate. He's like,
No comments. Just okay lah.
Redor.
Yeah.
First time Hari Raya overseas or what?
Yeah, it's my first time doing it here. So
Oh, I have an uncle who lives in London actually, but I don't know whether it's quite close to you though.
it's an hour's train ride lah from London.
Oxford, but I'm sure it's like a community there, that you can.
Oxford? Yeah, we have a
for
community.
sure. And then you do like every year, you do a video Hari Raya, send it to
Oh my god, Surya. Kami daripada Oxford, ini mengucapkan.
Are you going to do that?
That is the most cringe thing.
And then Pak Zulkifli kat rumah, anakku gitu. Alright. But so it's gonna be Ramadan there.
Yeah.
So far, do they have like any plans or like honestly, how do the Muslim community like socialize when you're there?
Socialize.
What do you mean by the question?
No, as in like, do you have a community? Yeah, community in Oxford.
So we have a Islamic society.
Okay.
ISOC. Usually in normal circumstances, for the entire of Ramadan, they give free iftar. But then now, because of
COVID.
lockdown and COVID, that's not possible. So I suppose, I've actually reached out to some of the Singaporean Muslims here and asked them like, you all want to get together for and lockdown restrictions are easing, and I think by the time of Raya hopefully we can gather, and I think it would be nice to gather there. I mean, Oxford, Cambridge, there are not many Muslims, there are even lesser Malays. I think Malays, I think there's only 3 of us here.
Wow, in the entire school?
In the entire of Oxford the entirety of Oxford University from undergrad and grad level.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there are other Muslims, but the Muslims are, they're Indian Muslims. So,
Yeah.
And of Muslims themselves is, I think, it's lesser than 10. Lesser than 10 of us.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think if it's in London, I think it's a lot. I mean, London has like so
definitely.
many.
For sure, yeah. Well,
So Hari Raya lah.
Selamat berpuasa.
Selamat puasa. So I guess hours there are
Longer.
With
for Ramadan. Longer, right? Longer than here. Okay. Good luck.
all the best. Kebuluh lah kau kita.
Alright, thank you so much, Zulhaqem, for coming over to this podcast. I think we have learned a lot from hearing your story. I think we could go on for days listening to you. But thank you so much for taking your time out, and we wish you all the best in your future plans for yourself and also Project Hills. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Alright guys, thanks for listening. So we'll see you on the next episode. Don't forget to give us a shout out on anchor.fm/The Halal Travel Podcast. Your voice message could be featured in our next episode.
Yep, and if you have any advertising and collaboration opportunities, contact us at info@halaltrip.com. That's info@halaltrip.com.
Also, don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Halal Trip. We're also now on Telegram and TikTok. Until next time, get inspired, go and inspire others.